YouTube, Rook here from Rook Geek Goodness, my little channel on the web for all things geeky and cool, and welcome to another action figure review. We're going to be looking at the DC Mattel Kyle Rayner Rebirth figure. Now, I wanted to do this figure for a long time now. I picked him up a couple months ago on Amazon, I think about $26, $27 US with free shipping. Now, this is a very, very cool Kyle Rayner figure. If you're a Green Lantern fan, you got to pick up this figure. If you're a Kyle Rayner fan, you must buy this figure. Now, Kyle Rayner here is a different sort of costume. This is the Kyle Rayner from the DC Rebirth continuity. If you're not familiar with Rebirth, it basically spun out of what was called a DC 52, which was done for at least 5 or 6 years, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong on the timeline, but that ended in 2016, and this figure here picked up a part of what was called the Green Lantern Rebirth series, and he has this new costume, which is kind of a throwback to his original outfit. And that's what kind of threw me off when I was doing my original review for this video, because the packaging, if you look at the packaging here, this shot of Kyle right here and right here, this harkens back to his original outfit. That's why I was confused when I did my original review. I talked about this being his original costume. It is not. It's based off of his Rebirth outfit, because you could tell by looking at his logo here on his chest, it's sort of split. His normal logo was black and green. This is sort of half of black and green and half of a new, like, standard Green Lantern logo. That's what really threw me off, and I was reading the back of the packaging. I'm like, this is the Rebirth Kyle Rayner. This is not the original costume, but this is an awesome figure that we have to really talk about in the breakdown segment. Speaking of breakdowns, we do a full breakdown of this figure. We'll look at the packaging as a whole. We'll look at the paint, articulation, and the accessories, and I think that's going to really swing a lot of people's opinions, would be the accessories. And then we'll conclude the video with final thoughts for you, the viewer. Should you spend the money and pick up the Mattel DC Multiverse Kyle Rayner Rebirth figure? Stay tuned, guys. We'll go into a breakdown. All right, guys, we're in a breakdown segment looking at the Mattel DC Multiverse Kyle Rayner DC Rebirth figure, part of a Collect and Connect Lobo wave. And the very first thing we do in a breakdown segment is look at the packaging and presentation. This is your typical window box display we've seen for the DC Multiverse figures. Again, this is Mattel's last year of the license, 2019, with the recording of this video. McFarlane Toys gets the license for DC stuff in 2020, at least in the 7-inch scale. So let's take a look at the packaging right here first. At the top, we have the Collect and Connect little symbol that has the Lobo stuff on it. You have the nice Kyle Rayner name across the top, the DC logo right here. The artwork over here is something I talked about at the beginning of the video, because this artwork that you see is not from Rebirth. This is from an older comic that Kyle Rayner was part of back, I want to say probably in the early 2000s. This is how his outfit kind of originally looked, because if you look at the logo here, that's his traditional logo that he's always had. Compared to the logo you see right here on his chest, that's the newer logo from the Rebirth stuff. That's what kind of confused me when I shot the video originally a few days ago. I was talking about this being his classic costume, and that's how it's kind of billed when you go to Amazon and try to look up this figure or any other websites. They mention this as classic costume. That is not, in fact, true. It's his new costume, part of the Rebirth series. Now over here, if we take a look at the figure, we have a nice shot of him right here. Oh, I mentioned at the bottom, it does have the DC logo, DC Multiverse, and Mattel. On this side, we have a nice shot of him right here. Same artwork right there on left and right. On the back of it, we have the same shot that we were talking about over here, and then in the front of the packaging, just kind of blown up the full artwork that you would have seen. And a nice little write-up that talks about a little bit about the Rebirth series. So again, if you're not familiar with Rebirth, it's the newer continuity that came out basically in 2016. It spun out of the 52 comics that came, which I believe it was part of Flashpoint is what spun out the 52, and that's what the new Rebirth comics are all about. With that being said, let's get Kyle Rayner here out of the packaging and continue the breakdown. All right, guys, we have our DC Rebirth Kyle Rayner figure out of packaging. The very first thing we do when we take a figure out of packaging is look at the paint and articulation. This is a really cool figure. It's a very thin body for Kyle Rayner. He's not a big muscle guy like a Hulk or even, let's say, Batman. He's more of like a Spider-Man body as far as what I'm looking at here. Very thin body. Paint goes through the entire figure. You have black, white, and green through the entire figure. Take note here, I talked about it before, is this logo. This is the Rebirth Kyle Rayner figure. This is not his traditional outfit. His traditional outfit would look like this right here. That's his original look in action figure form, more close to what it would look like back then. That was basically like late 90s, early 2000s. That was the original outfit. That's how he looked. If you notice at the logo here, this is sort of like a hybrid costume based on the original outfit, because on this side of the logo right here is his original logo that he used. On his original design, if he was was his original outfit, this symbol right here, the color would have been inverted on that side like the artwork I showed you on the box. This is the Rebirth costume because it has sort of the original Lantern logo on that side, on the far side of his breast right there. Again, throwback to the original costume. Love the way he looks, and he has a great amount of paint apps on this figure. Looks great. Let's take a look at that head sculpt before we go anywhere. This is his traditional look. This is a much younger looking Kyle Rayner compared to, we have a guest I'm going to bring in right now. A guest because this is my very first action figure I did on my channel. The Kyle Rayner Green Lantern, part of the Green Lantern collection, series 1 that Mattel brought out years ago when the Green Lantern movie dropped. This Kyle Rayner figure was the very first figure I shot on my channel. I talk about it a little bit here. I had him in a light box, had a lot of difficulty shooting this video, but this one looks like an older version of this figure here, which is kind of odd, where this figure was basically part of the 52, and this figure came out of the 52 into the Rebirth series, but you can see a lot of similarities between both figures. Put him aside, and we'll come back to Kyle here. Looks great. If you notice the hair, he has a lot of wash on his hair. It's black and sort of a tinge of blue. Gives it sort of it's like a cell shading effect. I love the way it looks. He does have the crab mask. That's what he's really known for. He has that domino mask, but it looks a little bit different. It looks almost three-dimensional. That's a telltale sign of Kyle Rayner. He always had that in any outfit he's ever had, with the exception of, I want to say, Ion, and his late, I would say early to late run in the 2000s, like 2006, 2007. He changed the way the outfit's mask look. It didn't look like this per se, but he went back to kind of a hybrid design between his old outfit and the new one. Now let's talk about articulation on this figure. Articulation is really good. Head will spin 360 with no real problems. Up and down, you don't get a whole lot of movement here. I'm okay with that. Arms are on a ball joint. You can go to a full T, as you see me showing you right there. They will spin because it's a ball joint, 360 on both arms. I do like it. It's a little bit stiff, but that's okay. He does have he has a single jointed elbow rather right here. What's very cool about this figure is it will spin 360 at the bicep. This whole arm will rotate. Both arms you can do this with. I'm very, very surprised at that level of articulation where you can have this amount of range for this figure, because you don't see a whole lot of figures with a 360 bicep cut. That I think is very cool. Will you be able to get 360 on this part, his forearm? That will not be able to spin 360. You can get some movement, but you can't go past this really, or unless you'll snap the arm, and you don't want to do that. Again, single jointed elbow. You have sculpt for the forearm guards on both arms here, so you see that one and that one. They both are the same amount of articulation. This is kind of a throwback to what he had with his original outfit too. He had these long gloves, these gauntlets. He had that before. The hands will spin 360. He has a closed fist here with a power ring. If you notice, there's a little bit of splotch on it. There's not a whole lot of detail on the power ring. This hand here is open. It's an open grip. But I have a big pain point with this hand because the way they made his hand grip is extremely tight, and to get his accessory in, his power battery, you have to open and pry his hand open, and it will slowly flex closed. So I don't think this was a good idea, the amount of grip he has, because the power battery itself, we'll talk about shortly, there's a big problem with that. Now if we go down, if we move his arms up to get him out of the way, we look at his chest, great tooling and design. You do have an ab crunch. You can go forward right there. You can get a decent amount of range on it. Kind of hold him back up so you can see. He does bend. If you bring it back, it's not that clicky, ratchety joint that we've seen for a lot of Mattel figures, but you can get a decent amount of range. He will spin 360 at the waist, right here. He will have that weird off cut. If you get him like that, you might be able to see it. I don't know if you can pick it up on the camera. If you get him into this sort of pose, you'll see it look very, very weird on the side. So you have to keep kind of the waist tilted correctly. The legs are pretty good, decent amount of range here. You can see me get a decent kick. The legs will let you spin 360 at the thigh cut. You do have a nice, I think it looks like a double jointed knee right here. Look great. This will not, this joint right here, this ankle, this shin will not spin. This is all one solid piece. It is sculpted in place. You can't really spin this 360. The foot, you have up and down movement on it, and that will pivot 360 right there. So you get a decent amount of range on this Kyle figure. I'm very happy with the amount of articulation on this figure. Kind of getting back in the position here. So he has a real decent range of motion. They did a really good job for Mattel with this figure. Let's look at accessory number 1, this sort of flaming tendril effect. It's kind of a neon green. It's coming out being very washed on my camera. It looks more yellowish, but it is kind of a neon green effect. It's sort of a flame effect in the front. They tooled it. It sort of winds around. There's energy tendrils kind of whipping across the back of it. It looks cool, but I think this is kind of a shortcoming. I think they could have given us a better accessory than this one. I think it could have been let's say a construct weapon or a gun or a cannon or a blaster, something neater than this. Now, Kyle can hold this particular construct. It's really made for his ring hand right here, as you can see. This is how it would look. You'll see screenshots littered through the entire video. You can put it there and kind of hold it in his hand. It is sort of ambidextrous. You can put it on his other hand, but it's not really meant for this hand per se, but he can hold it and it will stay and he won't drop it. So it looks good. Decent tooling, but again, is really built for this hand as opposed to this hand, but it looks all right. Again, I wish it was longer, which was more detailed, but that's what we got. So let's take off this one and let's look at this next one, which I think is the biggest problem with this figure, is this power battery. I like the way it looks. It looks really, really cool. It tooled it very, very well. It's a deeper green color than, let's say, this power battery, which was the other Kyle Rayner's power battery. Very similar kind of design between the two batteries. I do like the way it looks. This one's more chunky right here, the new one, as opposed to his original traditional one. This battery is what they should have given to this figure, because this battery is, even though it looks really cool and it's tooled very well, there's an inherent problem with this power battery, and that is this piece right here, this handle. This handle is extremely gummy. You see it wobbling and warping back and forth here? I have so much difficulty getting it into his hand. I'm not even going to attempt to do it for you right now. I'll put a picture up so you can see him holding the power battery. Again, it looks neat. They did a lot of paint apps on this, and I think the biggest problem with this accessory is they ran out of either time or money. I don't think they were lazy when they built this power battery. I don't like it because of this handle. This power battery here is articulation. You can move it. This would have been such a better accessory to give to this Kyle Rayner figure than this power battery. I don't like it because it has no articulation. They built the handle into the battery itself. I don't think it was the greatest idea. Again, I think it was either a time problem or a money problem. There were probably, or maybe a combination of both. Again, it does look good, does look cool, but this is the biggest shortcoming with the figure. This I can get away with. This I think is all right. It's a nice gimme accessory. I think it would be a better construct if they could have given us something better than this. But this power battery, there's no recourse for this. There's no excuse. That's what I'm looking for. There's no excuse for this power battery because it's very, very poorly designed when you look at the bigger picture, because of this handle will just fall apart and break down. Now, the last accessories for Kyle here I left in the packaging is the Lobo legs. You get a pair of legs with Lobo. That kind of gives you a little bit of semblance to the scale here. If you look at Kyle up to it, about to the size of the leg, he's going to be much taller than Kyle based on this figure. So it's going to be probably in the 6.5 to 7 inch scale. The legs are very cool. We get, again, 2 legs. I left them in the packaging because I think I'm going to get the Lobo figure, because you need 4 figures to create the Lobo. You need to get Kingdom Come Superman, Kyle Rayner, Batman Beyond, and Kid Flash Wally West, the African American version, to build that particular Lobo figure. But I think all in all, this is a really, really great figure, if all things considered. Again, if we bring both figures in here, we have our DC Rebirth Kyle Rayner, and if we bring in this Kyle Rayner here, which was part of the 52, that's that outfit that you see right here. I wish they would have given us this accessory or something close to it, or maybe even a big boxing glove like this sword. Just the glove itself would have been very, very cool. But to give us this crappy power battery as opposed to this power battery, which would have been a much, much better choice. So I hope you like this portion of the breakdown. Let's go to final thoughts and wrap up this video. All right, guys, final thoughts on the Mattel DC Multiverse Kyle Rayner Rebirth figure. Again, part of the Collect and Connect Lobo series. I'm very, very biased towards this figure in a good way, because I'm a big Green Lantern fan, if you guys didn't know. I'm also a massive Kyle Rayner fan. He is the guy who I broke into with comics when I started reading Green Lantern in the mid-90s. This guy here is my Green Lantern, and that's why I'm very biased, and again, a good way towards this figure. Accessories kind of aside, we will talk about that momentarily. This is a dynamite figure to buy. It's definitely a buy in my honest opinion. Great packaging, great design, great paint apps, great articulation. All in all, through and through, it's a great figure with Collect and Connect crew neck possibilities. If you want to get that Lobo figure, you get the legs for Lobo in this particular figure. The accessories is what the biggest pain point is for me to this figure. The tendril energy effect, the energy burst effect, that is kind of ambidextrous. You can put it on either hand, but it's really meant for his ring hand. You can put it on his other hand, but you can't put it on that ring hand. It's okay per se. It's not that great. It's all right. But that power battery is horrible. The gummy handle, which you talked about in the breakdown, is absolutely, they should not have done. It's going to fall apart, break down, and you can't even get it into his hand. I didn't even try to put it in his hand. I took screenshots of it so you can see what it looks like when he's holding it, because it's so difficult to pry his hand open and put that battery in it because it's so gummy. There's no resistance. You can't push it in, as opposed to this Kyle Rayner right here, which again, fun fact if you didn't know, this was the very first action figure review I did on my channel in, yes, a light box. Absolutely hated that review, but this Kyle Rayner was my very first video review when it came to an action figure on my channel, Rook, Geek goodness. But they should have used this power battery. If they would have used this identical power battery for this figure with no paint apps even, I would have been happy. Articulated handle, great sculpt, great design, I would have been thrilled. They gave us paint apps with this power battery, but the gummy handle, it's horrible. It will fall apart and break down. All things considered, this is a buy in my honest opinion. If you like, again, Green Lantern, Kyle Rayner, this figure is for you. So I hope you like this video review, again, of the Mattel DC Multiverse Kyle Rayner Rebirth figure. Remember to click that like button. Always click subscribe. When you subscribe to the channel, click the bell icon to be notified of my latest videos. Of course, last but not least, you can click Windows over here to watch more of my content. Take care, guys. See you next video, and bye-bye.